Oh, it's time to talk mules and donkeys. Is it really? Okay, thanks, Jess. Yeah. Jess says it's time for mules and donkeys.
So, Steve, I want to tell people because before before we started, every week we've got this thing kind of down to a science now. In the beginning, we were figuring out some bugs. We were working on the internet, and we've come a long way here in the last several years. But I still like to go through a little checklist before we go live each week. And one of the things that I'll do is before we go live, I will test and make sure that the video plays. And so I don't need more than a second. And apparently Jess doesn't need more than a second either, because he heard that thing for a split second from all the way outside. And I just hear far back, woo, woo, woo.
Yeah. It's his favorite thing. He likes watching TV. You know, when I sit down and watch TV, I have to watch cowboys and horses and this sort of thing. Well, now he's watching mules and mules and donkeys and listening. He's listening in on it. You know, so he's right here on my left hand side. Yep.
He's taking it all in. He says, I've got work to do, and I'm trying to gain the trust of those animals and get results. Folks, my name's Dave. This is Steve. Every week we get together to do that very thing, to talk mules and donkeys so you can gain the trust of your animals, get results when you get out there, and enjoy what it is to be an equine owner. Every week on Tuesdays, we ask the same three things. We ask first and foremost that if you're hanging out with us, you share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like. We want to say hello to you. We want to say, I hope you're having a great day. We want to know your name, and we want to hear from you. We believe that every human just inherently has dignity and honor because you are an image bearer of the Almighty, and we want to say hi to you. It's too easy in this digital world to hide behind a screen and not be known. So just say hello, share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like, and we want to acknowledge you and say howdy right back to you and say you are an amazing image bearer of God, and we are glad that you're here today. The second thing that we ask is that you do us a favor and help make this program awesome. Help make this program fantastic. Steve and I are not much to look at, and, we have a few things to say, but really it gets old and boring real quick. Unless you ask questions. Your questions make this program incredible. And Steve, I know you've heard from so many people saying, I love watching the podcast every single Tuesday. It's always so good. Well, the little secret that they don't know is it would be garbage if all those folks weren't showing up. If they weren't showing up and asking questions, this program would get real old real quick. So we really do need your help to make today's show an incredible show. And all you need to do is just ask any and every mule or donkey question that you got. The third thing that we ask, and this one is because we want you to have incredible relationships. And if folks find out that you've been holding out on them and not telling them that there is a mule and donkey program every Tuesday, 3 o'clock Arizona time, you're going to have a hostile person on your hand. And we don't want that. We want you to have great relationships. So share the broadcast. You've heard it before. Sharing is caring. So share the broadcast. Show someone you care about them. Show those mules and donkeys you care about them. And we'll get the word out. Steve, it's been a week since we've hung out. How have things been out there on the ranch?
We've been getting rain. It's been nice. And last night we got a really good rain. I think the last time I looked at the gauge, we got almost an inch now.
That is like a mega storm for Arizona. Yeah. Like that is intense amounts of water. I was at my church today. I was meeting up with one of our pastors and a friend of ours. We took a break from our meeting. He and I walked to the restroom to get some water. And I looked outside. I said, boy, I sure do love it when it rains like this. He looks at me. He goes, I hate it. I said, what? He goes, oh, I hate it. I'm from Boston. It was like this, and it was terrible. I moved out here to get away from it. I said, I love it. I said, bring it. I've lived here my whole life. We get this about 1 week a year, and I'm ready for it. So, yeah, it is rainy out here in Arizona, but we love it. The natives love it, and the people who moved here from Boston, they're a little cranky, but that's okay. We'll get back to sunshine. They'll get over it. Let's say hello to a few of the people who are hanging out with us so far. And if you're sitting on a question, go ahead, put it in the comments section, and we will get to it. I want to say hello to Mark, who's watching from just up the street in Chino Valley. He says, hi, Steve and Dave. Kathy is watching from a rainy and muggy Houston, Texas, where it's 73 degrees there. Mario is watching from Central Valley, California. Wet, cloudy, rainy, 49 degrees is what he says. Tamar is watching from Elora, Queensland, Australia. And you know what that means? It means we have gone international. Woo! Right off the bat, it was getting a little dicey there the last couple weeks. We didn't have our international friends right away, but I think this makes it 267 years in a row. Dave O'Brien is watching from East Texas, 51 degrees and raining. It's been 2 weeks of cold and a week of rain. There's no mule training going on here. I'm glad mules have great memories. You know what? Let me ask you about that, Steve. What if you wind up having to go 3 or 4 weeks after one training session before you can get into another? Is there anything that I need to be concerned about?
No, there's nothing. Matter of fact, it's best, okay? Because here's what's going to happen. When Dave goes back or when somebody else goes back and they go to train him, all they have to do is start doing the same things that they were doing. Pretty simple. Put the come along hitch on. Have them go right and left, and just watch them go up the ladder, and they'll fix it, no problem at all. Dave, we used to be gone, my wife and I, when we'd be traveling on the road doing these seminars. I'd be gone 4 months at a time, 4 months, and I'd come back, and my mules were just like the day I had put them up. I took them out and did my come. Now listen to this, folks. It's really important. Listen. I didn't take him out and go riding. No. I put the surcingle on him, and I put him out in a round pen, and I said, do you remember? That's what I did. Just because, folks, they're trained doesn't mean they're not going to have a bad day, or doesn't mean a problem's going to come. So I usually get my come-along rope, do some come-along work, put the surcingle on, put him out in a round pen, and away I go. And all that probably takes maybe an hour, okay, at the most. But it's well worth it. Yeah, you did good, Dave. Don't worry about it. If you do a good job, they'll come back, especially that special mule from Shelbyville.
Shelbyville. Are they doing the Mule and Bluegrass Festival again this year? Have you heard about it?
Yeah, they are. Matter of fact, I had a phone call the other day from Marty Ray, and he gave me some sad news that a friend of ours that he comes in from Oklahoma, and he had a massive heart attack, and he was in the hospital, and he's in there. They did all the work to him, so now it's a matter of recovery. But he was a great man of God, but they caught it just right. One of the downsides, when he fell, when he had the heart attack, he fell and hit his head, so that made it even tougher, And so, yeah, but he's doing good, and we're looking forward to next year. This Shelbyville, Tennessee over there, bigger and better. He's got a lot of great ideas. It's a good program because we're helping out the veterans.
That's awesome. I want to say real quick, I hope you're okay with this, Steve, but when we hear about stuff like this, I think it's easy for us to get wound up about a lot of things happening in the world. Because there's so many things that we want to be able to try and fix, but the proximity, we're just not close enough to fix it. And so the frustration in our lives comes with being upset about something and having zero power over it. But when we hear about friends or family, when it comes to being ill or accidents, whatever the case might be, God is a God who hears prayer, answers prayer, and you don't have to be in proximity to there's all sorts of problems that we're never going to be close enough to actually do anything about. But we know a God who is close to it and a God who can do things. And so when we hear of stuff like this, we might feel, oh man, there's not a whole lot I can do. Well, you can pray. And God is moved by prayers. And so when you hear something like this, like Steve and Marty Gordon's friend, y'all can pray for him. And that is something, no matter your proximity, you can have influence over. So glad to hear that they're able to make it happen again this upcoming year. And we'll be looking for information about that as it gets released. I want to say hello to Polly, watching from Barnesville, Minnesota, 32 and beautiful after a cold snap last week. High tomorrow is 36. Cookie and I are going for riding in our Steve Edwards saddle and tack. You know that makes our day, Polly. We appreciate hearing that. Yeah. Mr. Mario's got a question. I've got a question regarding a training technique I observed this week. I called a trainer in Kentucky this week who teaches his mule to park out. As he rubs the withers of the mule walks out and stands still, and then he saddles up. Do you know anything about this park out training technique? And can you expand on how you do teach this to a mule? So what is the park out training technique, Steve? Do you know about it? And can you do this with a mule?
Oh, yeah, you can do it. You know, my mules had it. Matter of fact, my saddle fit video, I don't know if we included that in there or not, but at the end of my saddle fit video, I got this huge mule that I'm riding, and that mule was so big, it's tough on me. I'm 5'6", so I either got to stand on top of stairs or put him down in a ditch or something like that, or put him down into a wash in order to climb on him, So the other thing that I've done is I've taught them how to park out. And what that amounts to is you got the two legs, front and rear. And the front ones come out, and that makes the stirrup come down. And you can drop when the front feet go out, it can drop as much as 4 inches, which makes it pretty nice to climb on. Then your mule is good and solid. He knows to stand still when you're getting on him. So, I did some training on that a few years ago. I don't think we got any videos on it now, but this is the cue. This is what you do. And it's difficult to tell you without visually seeing it, but picture this. I have my hand up on the neck, right where the wither and the neck come together. And I hold it right there. I have my come-along rope in my left hand with about 2 foot of rope coming off the come-along. As I squeeze my neck, that is the cue to move the legs forward. So what I do is take my right leg and I tap the right front leg of the mule to move just a little bit. It doesn't have to be, it could be a 1/4 inch, but when I tap, I squeeze. And then when he moves his foot, I let go. And then I take my right leg and I tap the left leg. Now I'm tapping it down at the pastern. All right. So then now that I've got both of those feet coming out even, I have my come along rope in my left hand. Now, should my mule want to move the back end forward, I bump with my come along rope and say, don't do that. I only want my 2 front feet to go forward. So now look, always keep this in mind, y'all. Do everything in 3, 6, 9, 12. Also, if your mule is worried, getting scared, okay, then relax a minute and then ask for smaller tries. You always want your mules, when you're training, and your donkeys, when you're training, you want them to be as calm when you start as when you end. Got that? As calm when you start as when you end. Nice and quiet. So using my come along rope in my left hand to keep the mule from moving. And I just have it loose. This rope is loose, okay? And my right hand, I bump with my hand and I bump with my right boot at the pasture. And then that right leg goes forward a little bit more. Now, I do each leg 3 times. Now, even if it only moved that much, it's still forward motion and it's still on cue. I'm done for the day. Here's the great thing about doing something like this. Not only does it make it easier to get on and off, because now your mule knows to stand still, because that is the cue that I am getting on. See, folks, these animals need a cue to do something, okay? A cue. They can do turn on the forehand with a cue that goes, I see something up there, it's scary, that's my cue, turn and go back the other way. That's called turn on the hindquarters. So they turn and they go on the hindquarters, okay? What's their cue? Being fright and fright. We need to cue them that when we want to turn on the hindquarters, we take both reins, pick up on the reins, tap with our right or left leg, and turn right or left. That's our cue. Same thing with getting on and off. When I'm going to get on, I take my saddle horn and I shake my saddle horn. That cues them that I am going to get on. 80% of our equine accidents is getting on and getting off, okay? And since 80% of our equine accidents getting on and off, we have to be on flashing yellow caution the whole time. You're all the time when you're climbing on, you climb on watching the head. Hand on the horn, hand on the mane, left leg goes into stirrup, right leg swings over. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? How did I get on? I did not get on by holding on the back of the cantle and the front of the horn and climbing up like that. What happens? Yeah, you got a good chance of pulling that saddle over, because here's the majority of the time. Majority of the time, you have over-tightened your cinches, and you did it all with the mule standing still. Snug up a little bit on the front, snug up a little bit on the back, walk a 10-foot circle, come back around. Snug up on the back, one more time, leave the front alone. Walk around a 10-foot circle. What does that do? That lets everything loosen up so that the mule gets the saddle fitting right and everything's settling into place. Then here's what we do, Dave. We do what I call the wrangler dance. Everybody gets a hold of their pants and they pull them up a little bit, right and left. You watch them. When a horseman goes to get in the saddle, they'll try to get their pants squared up so that when they throw their leg up, their pants kind of stay up a little bit. That's what they do. And then the horsemen especially, have this disease. Because what happens is, when they climb on and get a hold of the cantle and get a hold of the horn, they pull the saddle to the left. It happens all the time. So then when they get in the saddle, what do? They take their right leg and they push on it, and they get the saddle back square center. Now, if they had everything rigged on their right to start with, back cinch good and snug, front cinch good and snug, on the horse only, then everything would be good. But what does horsemen do? Horsemen leave the front cinch tighter, the back cinch looser, and then they climb on and wonder why the saddle rolls. The purpose of 2 D-rings is to evenly balance the saddle so that it sets on the back correctly. When your cinches are not tied correctly, your saddle will move. So you see, you get more here, Mario, than what you're thinking, because there's more to this, okay? When you cue your mule to park out, that is really cool because it does 2 things. 1, it lowers the stirrups. Number 2, it teaches your mule a cue I'm getting ready to get on. And that's really important. Now, Mario and all the rest of you, keep this in mind. Here it comes. Come on, coffee first.
Always got to get the come along coffee first. You got to keep the vocals liquid, and you got to keep the ask, tell, demand at the forefront of the heart and the mind. All right, Steve. Now that you got your come along coffee, bring it.
Here's what we don't do. Don't do that silly thing of laying them down on the ground. Don't do that. Folks, that is absolutely the stupidest thing you can do with your mule. I have very little credibility with people who do that with their mules, especially who train them to do that. You know the reason that was done to start with? It was done to start with so that the army laid their mules down to get behind them to have something for cover. Then they also did this when a mule was not being submissive. They threw him on the ground, and I used to do it. I used to do it before I got better at this thing. I used to tie him up, wad him on the ground, throw a tarp on him, and yeah, I even beat him with a 2x4. Yeah, they will submit. That was the old Steve, folks. I did those stupid things because I watched other people do those things and thought that was the thing to do. Nope, learned a better way. So don't lay him down on the ground, folks. Listen, when a mule lays down on the ground, everything slows down. Their intestines and their stomach and all this stuff all slows down. And when they go to get up, they're not meant to have your 200 pounds plus the saddle to get up. Okay? That is tough on their spine. So when you get up, you're hurting their spine, you're hurting their hips. I can't tell you how many people that I've had in clinics that have done that and wondered why their mule was tripping. Yeah, it's because they laid them down. Okay, well, there you are, folks. Have fun.
All right, Mario, thank you very much. I don't think we've ever talked about that before, at least not from that angle, so I appreciate you taking the time. And that is going to be one that we will come back to again, I'm sure. Mindy is watching from Pulaski, Tennessee. We are thawing out from our big snowstorm. Glad I found this live. I will tune in more often. And Mindy, we will look for you. Oh, it looks like Steve White is using Mindy's login. So, Steve, make sure you tell Mindy about it too. She'll be like, why is this coming up in my feeds? These algorithms, they're showing me some cowboy here. Steve, tell Mindy about Steve Edwards so it makes sense. We're just looking out for you there. Michael is watching from Asheboro, North Carolina, 48 degrees and drizzling rain. Bill, as always, Sharon to Mules of Ohio's and Mules of Indiana. It wouldn't be a Tuesday without it. Cloudy and rainy at 42 degrees with the fog moving in. What is fog, Bill? We don't ever get fog out here. Tell us what fog is. Sherman Johnson Taxidermy, 40 degrees and raining, working on a white-tailed deer today. Hopefully that white-tailed deer is a trophy and you're not just out there catching it, trying to do your thing live. There you go. Thank you, Johnson. Sherman Johnson. We're glad that you're here. Cowboy Ken is here, Connecticut, 36 degrees and cloudy. Kai is watching from Epworth, Georgia, 45 and raining. Joan is watching from Buffalo Creek, Colorado. Today it's beautiful, 47 degrees and mostly sunny. A great day to work with mules. Wait, any day is a great day to work with mules. That's awesome. Next question, this one comes in from Dave, says, I have a John who has always rode good by himself or with a bunch. Now he will try and stop and go back if you stop him. He runs backwards. If you stop him, he runs backwards. I hate to get in a fight with him. I just put him in a circle and put him to work, but he will do it again in about an hour. I hate to get rough with him. I just don't think that works with a mule. Steve, what would you have to say to David?
All right, David, I'm going to give you this picture. Here's this bunch of horses out in this pasture. And a new mule just gets turned into the pasture. And the new mule sees all of these animals out there. He's thinking, man, look at all my buddies I can play with. And he runs out there and all of a sudden, the lead mare pins her ears, looks at him. Well, he's thinking, well, I'm going to keep on coming. He keeps on coming in. She pinned her ears, looked at him, saying, don't come no closer. But he come on in. So now he keeps on coming in. So now he pins his ears and swishes his tail. She just told him. She asked him. She told him. Now guess what's going to happen? The little mule keeps on coming in. Then she demands on him. She spins and she turns and she bites and she kicks and she lines that little mule out, knocks him down on the ground. Yeah. She walks off. The little mule gets up, puts his head down, ducks his head, licks his lips, and follows her anywhere she was going. Do you hear that? That is called equine language. Ask, tell, demand. It's not just my coffee. It is what the mules and donkeys and horses do with one another. You and I can't handle a bite when they bite you. You and I can't handle a kick when they kick you. But these animals can handle a lot of that. They can do that. So let's go back to your mule. Folks, I've said it one time, I've said it a jillion times. Don't take them around in circles. Did it work for you, David? No. Hey, and I can tell you, folks, time and time and time again, where people have told me they've done that, and they've done it for 15, 20 years, and it's still not working. Why keep on doing it? Okay, not that I'm making demeaning of you there, Dave, and being condescending by any means. Okay, no. Okay, but listen, everybody does that same horse stuff. Why not get out of that pocket and do something different that works? Okay, now, are you wearing spurs? Okay, it's really important because here's the thing. When that mule starts to go backwards, you spur him right, left, not both spurs at the same time. Right spur, right brain. Left spur, left brain. They don't have the cranial lobe that the right side what the left side's doing, the left side what the right side's doing. They don't have that. They only have this right brain that says, what's going on over here? Left brain, what's going on over here? Okay? So when that mule is starting to go backwards, put your hand down. Make sure you have the mule rider's martingale on there. Okay? Hit him with the right spur, the left spur, and then go right, left with your hands. Right spur, left with your hands. Now you're telling the whole body to respond. If you don't do that, and if you don't get rough with him, just like that mare did with that young mule, if you don't do it, you'll end up getting worse and worse and worse. Listen, this actually was happening quite a while ago, but you never saw it coming. And that's what happens with so much of this stuff, folks. We don't see it coming. We don't see the small things. Look for the small things. If a fly lands on your mule, he knows it lands there. He can tell you exactly where it is, and he makes it go away. So if he can feel a fly, he can feel some things that you're doing. So you got that? Hopefully that helps you. Let me know how you're doing, partner.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that question.
Good question.
Yeah, great question. Cruising right along here. We've got, let's see here, Diane watching from Wooster, Ohio. Rainy in the late 40s. Sharon watching from Pennsylvania. Steve Brady watching from Delta, Colorado, 50 degrees and beautiful. Hey, come along, coffee itself. David Pingelli, getting the new place ready for my next mule. Can't wait to get back at it. We've got a great program. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, y'all ought to do that. Head over to YouTube, just search for Queen Valley Mule Ranch. You will find an incredible episode in our history from Steve and David Pengelly. Steve actually spent some time out in Georgia with David and recorded an interview with David there live. It was a great interview. David, thank you so much for doing that. It was a lot of fun. Y'all go check out that interview on our YouTube. Ginger is watching where it's from Georgia, where it's overcast and in the high 50s. Gail says hello from Boston. Kathy says the vet says gelding probably won't help the behavior at his age. I don't want to geld the other one as he is around 13 years old. I'm scared of losing either one to bleeding anesthesia, so I don't want to risk it if it's likely not going to improve behavior anyway. What are your thoughts, Steve?
13 years old, a mule. Folks, the most vicious animal I think I've ever seen in my life was a mule that had its testicles intact. Very unpredictable a stallion can be anyway, but a mule, oh my goodness, it's tough. Is there a possibility of making a change in their mind? I have never gelded one that old, so I really couldn't tell you. Have I gelded 4 or 5, 6-year-olds? Yeah. And did I see a change in them? Yes, I did. Okay. But here's the thing, folks. Gelding these mules is more for your safety. But Steve, he's been just fine. Yes, he's been just fine. But when a mule or a stallion has the testosterone running, especially in the spring, they've only got one thing on their mind, and that is to breed whatever is around. Okay? Now I'm going to get kind of personal here, ladies, because you all, this is the things that I've kind of talked about before. I'm going to get a little personal. When you ladies have your time of the month coming through, a stallion can be a horrible thing to be around, and I don't want to see you being in that place. That's right. Have I heard it? I've never seen it, but I've heard it, and it hasn't been something that I really wanted to hear. So I would strongly suggest to you that, yes, I know there could be a chance of a problem of bleeding and this sort of thing. There's always a problem when you come under the knife. But for your safety, I'd get it done. You know, I'm going to get even more personal, folks, because a human life is not worth the life of a mule. It's not. It's not. It's not worth taking that life. It could be an innocent child that mule reached through the corral, grabbed, and pulled through the corral. Yes, it has happened. So would I geld him? Yes. Other thing, if I didn't geld him, guess what I would do? I'd take him out to the back 40 and I'd put him down. They're not worth having around because they are not predictable. So there you are. That's my 50 years, not just my opinion. Been there, done that, heard it, seen it. I wouldn't take a chance.
One of the reasons why we do this program, and Steve has said this to me privately, and Steve has also said this on the program itself, he's not going to be around forever. And one of the great things about the time that we live is everything can be documented and everything can be very easily accessed. And so when we sit down and we have these conversations, one of the things that we have in mind is taking the answers, documenting them, so folks in the future will be able to hear about it, learn about it, and hopefully proactively apply it so as to not have to ask the question, why did this happen? But they can look and say, here's how I'm going to do my best to prevent this from happening. Now, here's the deal. You're also going to hear Steve say, this has been a lifetime of accumulating knowledge and experiences. I'm telling you what has worked for me, what I have seen, because I want to help you. But if you take it and you apply it and it doesn't work, okay, fine. Find something that works for you. but I'm going to tell you what has worked for me these past 40 plus years of working specifically with the mule and the donkey. And so I appreciate Steve whenever he has an opportunity to share that sort of thing, because we want to document it so folks can have it in the future, no matter what Steve chooses to do with his time, whether he is on the ocean, floating across the seas on a 6-month cruise or something like that, or if he's just taking a few weeks off. Steve's like, no thanks. Did you know that people actually live on cruise ships half of the year or year round? I read about that a few years ago, and I said, I have never in my life, but I guess it makes sense. You got everything you need.
There was one lady that I watched on a special documentary. Rather than go into a nursing home, a care center where, I mean, she could take care of herself and stuff. Yeah. She spent the time on cruises and spent the money on being on a cruise. They had a doctor on board. They had nurses on board. They had 3 squares a day. They had things to do, just like you do in some of these care centers, except for it's on a ship. And this lady was 92 years old, Wow, that's incredible,
I wonder if no room for the mules on it, though.
Yeah, I wonder if she drank come along coffee.
You know what? I bet that you could have it delivered at port. You could say, we're going to be at port this particular time, and you could have it delivered, and you would have something on the ship nobody else has. That would be fantastic.
Oh, that smells good, doesn't it?
It is fantastic. Stings the nostrils in a good way. Wonderful. Let's see here. David Pengelly's like, it's not supposed to sting the nostrils. I'm just quoting a movie. I'm trying to be funny, Dave. I know it doesn't work. Marcia is watching. Snow melting in Virginia and warming up. How do you train or use the Twitch when you are by yourself like myself? I want to work on the hind feet, but don't you usually need 2 people to accomplish this? I'm going to get the video, Steve. You go ahead and talk to Marcia.
Yeah, so Marcia, it's meant to be a one person. It's nice to have 2 people, okay? But here's the thing. Once you create the endorphins and you open and close the Twitch, open and close it, and it's working good, there is a string on it and with a clip. And you go around the handle, and the handle stays closed on the mule's nose. And then you take the clip and put it up on the halter, and then the mule just stands there. See, you've created the endorphins. The mule is starting to get quiet and lower his head and go to sleep, okay? When he does, then I go back and I work a little bit at a time. I go down and I rub the leg, and then I come back up, go down, and I rub the leg. I go a little farther, come back up, rub the leg, and then I'm done on the left leg for now. Then I go to the right leg, and I do the same thing. I go down, and I come back up. I go down, and I come back up. That's number 2. Then number 3, as long as my mule is standing there quiet, head down, and doesn't get worried about that, I go on down the leg and I hold my hand there a little longer. Now, if you're concerned that the mule may kick at you, take your quirk, a long leather whip, and go down the leg and use your quirk. So if he kicks the quirk, okay? Eventually, you'll get to where you slide your hand down, pick up the foot, put it down. Pick up the foot, put it down. Do that 3 times. You're done for the day on the right-hand side, okay? The Twitch, as long as you've already created the natural endorphins, the endorphins will still be there for quite a while. I had stitched up animals with them. And of course, I've worked on their back legs and stuff, but you can watch the video. We have a mule that doesn't want his eye messed with, doesn't want to put medicine in it. And you'll see how one-handedly I am able to get the mule to get quiet, and then one-handedly do the doctoring. Now, that's the video, but you'll also see it in some other videos that I've done. I don't know what are you pulling up, Dave?
So the video of picking up the rear foot, it shows you. Let's see, I just had it up here, and I put it
with the come along rope.
Yeah, with the come along rope.
Okay.
I know it's not with the Twitch, but
Right.
it shows just that process of picking up with one person and an animal that is not wanting to allow it. I'll play it here. You can keep talking, but I'll play it.
Okay. All right. So here this is now. This is a mule. You can see it's already switching his tail and already being kind of grumpy. I tried to pick up the foot, and the mule says, no, nothing doing. I'm not going to let you do it. So I said, okay. I put the come along on, and I took the halter off. Notice I got the quirk, and I'm picking up the foot. Even though the mule didn't pick the foot up. Now, see, that was even better. That was number 2. And then I bring it back into place and let him stand. Okay. I'm teaching the mule to stand still. I'm touching the button on the shoulder. There, the mule picked it up. That's 3. I'm done. Now I go back to the back foot. Now we got a gray mule that I'm doing too as well. But see, this is using the come along hitch. And you will see that by using the come along hitch, you can get very good results with it. Notice the rope is loose on his head. Notice that. I have it ready in case the mule has a problem. Then I'm going to bump it pretty seriously, and he doesn't want his nose bumped, okay? And so as long as he's doing what I want him to do, you see, I'm not bumping his nose. Now notice I'm going to reach down, pick up the foot, bring it forward first. The mule is checking me out, going, hey, what are you doing? I go straight back and go over to the left. Notice the mule is standing still and quiet. Why is that? When you train from the nose. Start with the come along hitch first. And if you're not getting good results, most of the time, it's the timing on your point. It's your timing that's not getting it. Now, if I have one that is trying to hurt me, okay, that is trying to kick at me or trying to bite me, then I will get the twitch out and I will use the twitch. Most of the time, I can do it with the come along rope. Most of the time. But if I have one that's really trying to hurt me and is not willing to go along with it, then out comes the twitch. And the twitch is a beautiful tool. I don't know if we got the picture of the video of that one buckskin that belonged to Julie from California, where I trained with the twitch.
We have it somewhere. I don't have it queued up right away. We don't have it. But Steve, can I show folks something real quick?
Sure.
About the Humane Twitch video. So let me show you all this. A lot of you folks have just been incredible with just being awesome customers and really consuming all the material. Well, I just want to show you real quick. Steve's talking about this Humane Twitch video, and so I think we need to do this more often, Steve, so people know where to find their videos. But when you get that Humane Twitch video, you get access to this My Account area. And when you go to watch videos right here on your My Account, when you go to watch videos, all of the videos that you have access to, they're right here in this library. And so you'll see right here, here's the video Steve was talking about, doctoring your mule. It's right here. And you pull up this video right here. And then it's got Steve here showing this particular video right here, and he shows him working with it. And I will get the clip that you're talking about, Steve, and I'll get it loaded up in here, so people, when they get that combo, they get the video that you've originally got, and we'll have that extra one in there as well. I think
that's a good idea, Dave. That's a real good idea. Did you hear that, folks? You don't just get one how-to video from us. Okay, yeah, you get the how-to video for the Twitch, but then Dave loads on a whole bunch of other videos of how-tos to help you out. Folks, it's all free, okay? I'm here today, but I could be gone tomorrow. The good Lord calls me home, I'm running, okay? So this information's for you. It's free, and Dave has got it set up so that when you click on there like he showed you and you get your video, not only are you going to get the video that you paid for, but he gives you a bunch more on top of it. Now, you ain't going to find nobody doing that, folks. You know, it's yes, it's kind of neat to be able to help my Social Security money out. Yeah, okay, but I'm helping you out, and that's what's important to me. You're able to do it on your own. Fantastic.
Yeah, if you take a look, so you'll see here my account. I've purchased after the wreck, I've purchased basics of shoeing, and I've purchased doctoring your mule. But I also have, I didn't purchase these. These are just loaded up. I've got installing your come along rope. I've got installing your rope halter. And there's probably about a dozen videos between these two. I've got the mule saddle training course. I've got a surcingle training video in there. And then I've got using your spurs with a mule or donkey. And all those just get loaded up into your account when you create an account. And we're not here to say, you know, go buy something. But what I want to show you is a lot of folks don't have a problem finding the videos, but enough folks have a problem finding the videos that I think, you know, more often on these live streams, we could go ahead and just demonstrate and show. But yeah, we want to get the material in front of you. We want you to be able to sit down to watch it. And if you've got the internet access, you can even take your phone out and watch it and apply, and watch it and apply. And so we know some folks don't have that, and so there's downloads, but for the folks who do have it, it makes it real nice. Steve, you had told me ahead of time, you messaged me earlier today, and I'll tell you what, I was up at 2 a.m. I could not sleep. I've got the life of a dad right now, and for some reason, I could just not sleep. So I worked from about 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. I went to sleep from 7 to 8. I did my meetings from 9 to 12, and then I slept from 12 to like 2:20 or 2:30 before we went live here. So anyways, it's been a bizarre day. But while I was sleeping, you sent me a message and you said, Dave, I want to talk about the pads today. I want to talk about the pads. And we've got about 10 minutes left. And if we need to go over, I have time. I think Steve may have time. Make sure we answer everything. But I want to give you a chance to talk about the pads here. So I'm going to bring up this first picture here. Why don't you go ahead and talk to us about the pads, Steve? I've got the other picture ready to show when you're ready.
All right, folks. When I designed this stuff, I designed it from what I learned from the mule. And so I designed them, and then we put them to work. I design them, then we put them to work, and we see how they're doing. These two pads here are the triple duty pads. So they're the heavy triple duty. And as you can see, they're a little bit different colors than what I normally have. These are the pads that I designed, that I tried to see how they would wear. And then I used them down on the ranch. So these pads, they may have maybe 25 hours worth of riding on it. They're not sparkling, brand new, clean, but I'm going to sell these two pads. If you all notice, these pads are $189 plus $50 in shipping. So they're about roughly $225, all right? But if you want to buy these heavy duty pads, you're going to send me a check in the mail, and then I'm going to send you these pads. These are my personal pads. I'm not selling you Queen Valley Mule Ranch used something. This is my own personal ones, okay, that I'm going to sell. And if you want to buy these pads are $100 a piece, plus the $50 for shipping. That means you save $80. Now, these pads have got minimal wear. They're really nice, and they are triple duty, all right? So those two pads, if you decide you want those, you text me, hey, Steve, I want those pads. I will text you back. We'll make arrangements to ship them to you. But you're going to save yourself $80 if you go with these two pads. These are the triple duty. Now, the other pads that I have here, these are just the heavy duty pads, okay? everyday pads. You can see they're a little bit different color than what you all are used to seeing. Again, these pads, I have made them and then tried to tear them up. Are they torn up? No. They're in excellent condition. They're just, they're just ones that I've tried things on and said, okay, we're going to make this change or that change. But these pads are the ones that are at the end where I said, okay, this is the way I want them. Now we'll start making all the pads like that. Okay. These pads here sell for about $165, something like that, new. Okay. If you want to send me $100, you will make arrangements. I want $100 a piece for these pads. That means you're saving somewhere around $60 and $50 shipping. So you're getting a really nice pad and you're saving yourself about $60. All you got to do is text me at steve@muleranch.com and I will send you these pads. Again, these are my pads, my personal pads that I have designed. That was my finished product. I said, okay, these will work. Now we make the rest of them like this. And for some of you who want me to, I'll even sign the pads right over here in the corner and sign Steve Edwards and put my date on there. And you'll have a designer Steve Edwards pad.
Wee doggy.
Whoa, man.
Ooh, that sounds pretty good. I didn't know Steve was going to do that. That's real fun. I love hearing that. Yeah, so y'all, you can send a text message to Steve. It's 602-999-6853. And Steve will take a look there. He'll communicate with you, let you know the status of the pads and next steps. So thanks for sharing that, Steve. I appreciate it.
I only have 4.
You got, what's that?
I only have 4. I got 2 heavy duties and 2 standards.
There we go.
That's all. Okay, so if they want them, contact me and we're going to make you a smoking deal.
All right. Smoking hot deal. Okay, Dewey's got a question, a smoking hot question. Can you cross a red Roan Peruvian Paso and a Gaited white Mammoth Jack and have a good riding mule about 14 hands high?
Okay, folks. When it comes down to breeding, and I was just discussing this here the other day with someone, it is depending on what the Lord has in mind when he makes that baby, okay? I have seen you take color like that and have a white one and then a colored one, pinto type, and they end up coming out black or they end up coming out red most of the time. So you cannot say, I'm going to take this color, I'm going to come up with this color. It doesn't happen. Now, I have taken my 13-2 little Jack, and I have bred a 14-2 little horse, and end up with a 16-hand mule. And then I bred a 16-hand horse to my 13-2 donkey, and end up with a 14-2 mule. Okay, it's just the way it comes out. Just because you breed for the size, it's a crapshoot simply because of this. These animals are a donkey and a mule. They're hybrids. So you don't really know what's going to come out. Now, you breed a Clydesdale to a Clydesdale, you're going to end up with a Clydesdale. You breed a quarter horse to a quarter horse, you're going to end up with a quarter horse. But when you breed a donkey to something, you don't always know it's going to come out that way. Okay? It's a possibility, but most of the time, it's really rare that it's going to come out exactly like you would like to plan. Like a full brother and sister. They're the same. They're the full brother and sister, but they may be 12 or 16 months apart, but they're not the same colors. I've seen that time and time again, or the same height. My mules were Shire mules that I had for wagon mules. They were dark bay with white stockings, just like a Shire horse, clear up to their knees, but they weren't feathered. They were lightly feathered, but great big mules. But Katie was 17.2. Tom was 16.5. Katie was a little more bulkier. Tom was a little more slender. That's the way it was. Beautiful pair of mules in the harness. Oh, man. They were beautiful, that's for sure. But anyway, there it is. Good question.
Next question. This one come in from Kathleen. Says, I have a 5-year-old gelded mule that has become so attached to my mare. I can't take him away to train him. If I do manage to separate them, he is so focused on her, I can't train him. I have tried separating them, but I only have 5 acres, so they can see each other no matter where I put them. I am at my wits' end. Steve, what would you say to Kathleen?
Okay, folks, this is a norm. This is the way life is, the way the good Lord ended up making them. A mule is very subservient to a horse, very subservient. When I was at the Grand Canyon and we were going up and down packing freight, we rode mules. No horses were allowed in the string because the mules got so silly about having a horse around. When I went to Yosemite, though, it was different. We rode a gelding, and we had 10 mules apiece, 2 strings of 5. We had 5 in our string. And at Yosemite, we rode a gelding. Now, the mules would still want to be around the gelding, but they weren't as silly as they were being around a mare. Now, we would pack our mules, 5 mules, get all the freight on them, tie them all together, and then we'd go back in one of the trails and pack in our freight to one of our camps, one of our trail camps. When we would arrive, we would take off all the pack equipment, our saddles and stuff, put it all away. The help around there would help us take things off. Kitchen help would take their kitchen stuff. And then I would turn the mules loose with no hobbles or nothing, all 5 of them loose. They never went nowhere because they wanted to stay right where that gelding was. Now, I took and hobbled the right rear leg of my horse with a 40-foot lash rope tied to a tree limb, tied to the bottom of a tree, and that gelding would be hobble trained, and he would know he can go out so far, and he would do his grazing. The 5 mules that I packed would go out and be grazing, but they'd come back in, check on the horse, and they would go back out again. But they wouldn't hang on to it because it was not a mare. Okay, now let's go back. I don't care if you take that mare and put her in the next city and put your mule in your corral. That mule will be looking for that mare and walk up and down that corral for hours on end, thinking, I've got to get to that mare. Okay, you're not going to change it. Is it tough? Yes. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to use the ask, tell, demand situation. Put the come along rope on, and always remember, folks, that when you're training your mules and donkeys, you train them from their nose. That's what gets it done. So what you're going to have to do is cue this mule that when now this is your timing now, folks. Your timing is going to dictate how quickly your mule is going to respond to you. Your timing, not 30 minutes, not 10 minutes, okay, but your timing. In other words, don't put a time frame on it, but say, okay, I've done 3 today, I'm done. I'll do 6 a week from now, or I'll do 6 a couple of days from now, okay? 3, 6, 9, 12. So here's what's going to happen. You got the mule on the come-along rope. The mule looks over and sees the mare. It's too late. You should have bumped it as soon as the ears came up. You should have bumped her as soon as the nose comes up. So you have to fix the problem before it becomes a problem. If it already has happened, you can get something done, but it's not as crisp and clean as if you're watching to get it done when it's thinking about it. So, can you fix the problem? No. That mule will want to stay with that mare no matter what. It's going to be a problem all the years that you're going to have that mule. I can tell you that when I have taken my mules from the ranch here in Arizona and I put them in a trailer and I go to another ranch to work and I pull them mules out, immediately them mules pick out a mare, especially a gray mare, and they will try to focus on her. They will. It's just what they do. They can be corrals over. They can be 100 yards over. And when they focus on that mare, there's something about it. They just fall stupid in love. Okay. So what do? The come along hitch, bang, bang, bang. Okay. When I'm in the saddle, I'm mule rider's martingale, right, left, spur, spur, spur. Right, left, spur, spur, spur. In other words, what I do is I make that horse uncomfortable when they go to think about it. Not because they look at it, not because they're already there, when they're thinking about it. In other words, when they go to elevate their head, I fix it then, okay? So you've got a permanent situation there that's going to take a lot of time. Can you get it? Yes, it can be done pretty good. I have gone out and we've been moving cows, and my mule, okay, and my little Rocky mule, matter of fact, that's up in Washington right now, my little Rocky mule, he was bad about that. And there'd be a new horse come in, and he'd want to see that new horse. I got to see that new horse. I want to see it. And I would rake him right, left with my hands, and I'd bump him with my spurs and say, that other horse is getting you in trouble. You decide to go over that other horse or spend time with it, you're going to get your butt whipped. Folks, don't be afraid to whack on them. Just like that mare that I talked about in the very beginning, where she bit and kicked and knocked him on the ground. Yes, don't be afraid to do that. If you don't, you will not be the herd leader. Folks, listen, it only takes just a little bit, okay? You don't have to beat on them all the time. In other words, what I'm saying is, when I say beat on them, I don't mean beat on them, but using your spurs and using your legs, okay? They have to understand, tell them, man, they know what's coming. And when they know what's coming, they're going to respond to you correctly. It got to where that little Rocky, we got a new mare come in. He was bound and determined. He was going to go spend time with that little mare. But a couple of jerks on the bridle, a couple of jerks on the come along rope. Oh, yes, sir. Okay, Steve. Okay, Steve, we'll pay attention. Okay. Did he go back and try to look again? Yep. It's not a permanent fix, but all you got to do is get to where you can pick up the bridle and he'll instantly respond. It is your timing that's going to fix the problem.
Awesome. Great question. Want to say hello to Merlin from Minnesota. Let's see here. Herman is watching. Hey, here we go. Herman is watching from the Netherlands. 8 degrees Celsius, stormy weather. International again. Christy's watching from Florida. Judy is watching from Gazelle, California. Mario asks, following up on this park out technique, he goes, are you doing this technique from the ground or in the saddle, Steve?
From the ground.
Okay, there you go, Mario.
Listen, Mario, I told you I used my right leg and my right boot to bump the pastern on the leg of the mule. My legs aren't that long. Okay? I mean, I know you think I'm tall, but I'm 5'6", and ain't no way in the world I'm going to reach that pastern from in the saddle. Okay? So, yes, sir. Folks, I build a foundation on the ground. On the ground. When I'm getting ready to get off, I park out the same way. See, I cue them, and then they know to stand still and quiet. Getting off and getting on is where you're going to get hurt the quickest, getting on a mule or riding a mule.
Judy is watching. Marcia is watching. She says, Let's see here. She says being more clear on the Twitch, using it in an being more clear, using the Twitch for an emergency like a required soaking of an abscess. Anything different you would say, Steve, knowing that piece of it too?
No, I mean, just like if I got one that's cut and is bleeding, really bad, I would still go through the same process. Now here's the thing: when they're upset, I would get a hold of it with my hand first, squeeze it, and then go ahead and put it on. If you got a second person, it's nice because you don't have to quit, go up and create the endorphins again, and then go back to work. Because you see, sometimes on these mules, the endorphins don't stay into place for a while. All of a sudden, they kind of feel the pain or they feel the needle or something like that. So I have to go back over and do it again. But if I've got somebody on the nose that can open and close and create the endorphins, it makes it nice. But if it's two people, one person, it just takes a little bit longer. You have to stop what you're doing and go back. So I've been stitching on one and be stitching away, and all of a sudden they get worried about it. I go back, create the endorphins with my hand, go back and stitch again.
Awesome. Christina asked the question, Steve, why would you use iodine salt instead of natural salt?
I don't use iodine salt much. I mainly just use just a straight natural salt. It's what I do. I block salt, and I don't use the mineral block. That's a waste of money. But both will be fine. The iodized salt and the natural salt is fine. I even use the natural salt, the crystals. When I got a mule that won't lick the block, I'll put it in with his grain, and then he's able to get some of its salt that way.
Awesome. Let's see here. Merlin says, what is your position on teaching a mule to park for mounting?
Perfect. Do it. It's the perfect thing to teach the mule to stand still and quiet, because once they park out, they know to stand still. Otherwise, you're going to bump their nose. See, that's the cue. See, when they go to move, you bump their nose, you tell them don't move. They want to move, you see. But as long as they park out correctly, great. Parking out is a wonderful tool. I wish I had some videos of how I taught them how to do that. I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but I used to teach it at my clinics.
Steve, I've never heard, that's what I love about these programs is, we've been doing this for years, and Steve, I've gotten to spend lots of extended time around you for even longer, 2 decades about, and I've never heard the park out thing, and it just amazes me how there is so much to know the point where there's topics that we haven't even covered yet that are out there. So that's real fun. We'll see what we can do about that in the future. Rory is watching from Southwest Ohio. Mitchell is watching from Tennessee. Let's see here. Hey, it's his birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Mitchell. Enjoy turning 30. Bridget is watching from Bertram, Texas. Bridget and Beauty Mule. Polly says, I gelded a 12-year-old rescue donkey. The vet did it differently because of his age and the size of his testicles. It made a huge difference in his behavior. So there you go. We talked about that a little bit earlier. We had a 13-year-old. Steve had said, I'd never done one that old. Polly's saying did one with 12 years old, and she experienced that difference. Any final comments on that, Steve?
No, Dave, there you are. We're teaching each other. We're helping each other. Listen, folks, nothing's really a guarantee. When it comes down to these things, life is life. There's no guarantee in life. There's only one guarantee that I know for sure, that if you know Christ is your Savior, you're guaranteed to make it through the pearly gates. Only guarantee that I know. Dave, I want to share with you.
Yeah.
You were talking about prayer earlier. Dave, I call everybody. And I called a gentleman from Tennessee, and he was feeling really down. And he just got done ordering some come along coffee and ordered a cap. And he had bought a saddle from me. He said, Steve, I've only been in your saddle 2 times. And I could kind of hear him kind of feeling, a little teary eyed, and you kind of hear his voice changing like he's just going to bust down any time now. And I just tried to be gentle and talk to him. And as I'm talking to him, he tells me, Steve, my back really hurts really bad. And the doctors can't work on it because I've got diabetes and my 2LC is not working right. And I'm just kind of in a bad way right now. And I was really feeling bad for the guy, and so I went ahead and we kind of talked a couple more minutes and then I let him go. I just felt really bad about that, Dave. So I called him right back immediately. I called him right back and said, I'm going to pray with you. I didn't say, can I ask you? I said, I'm going to pray with you right now. And I started praying that God would send a doctor, and that his hands would be the doctor's hands. His mind would be the doctor's minds. And that some doctor and this sort of thing can help this man. And my brother, you could just hear the tears rolling on the other end of the phone. And folks, I'm here to help you. But if I need to pray for you, that's going to be number one in my life, And Dave, the same way. It's important you all understand that I love teaching mules and people and donkeys and people. But first of all, I want to tell you about a Savior that I have. And Dave, there you go. That's what I just shared with you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I see folks walking around. They've got these shirts that say lions, not sheep. And I just think to myself, I was like, you know what? I get that. But if you look in the book of Revelation at the way that Jesus is portrayed in so many different instances, it is a slain yet risen lamb. And it is just this tender picture. Like everybody thinks that the Savior, that the King comes in all this power and glory. And in fact, he does. But the way God chose to enter into creation was through the symbolism of a slain lamb. And it's just incredible. If you can identify with us, like, are you going to go the way of the serpent or are you going to go the way of the lamb? And whatever you believe about eternity, that is a position of faith. It requires a level of trust, no matter what you believe. And so for me and my house, we've seen too much evidence and we've known too much. If I ever make that decision that I'm not going to live my life for Christ, it's not because I don't believe. It's because I just decided I want to do what I want to do because I know too much and I've seen too much to doubt that what Jesus has done and what he has said is real. So very good. Sherman Johnson says, what's the first sign of colic?
Oh, okay. They come off of their feed. You go to feed them and they still stand out there. That's one of the first signs. That's one of the first things. Another thing is them looking back toward their side. Another thing is them kicking their sides. Now, here's the downside, folks. Now, I've told you about a mule. When they have pain, they brace into it. I have literally seen mules and donkeys be colicking and they just stand there. Bracing against the pain. But when a mule or a donkey don't come to his feed, that's your first sign time's coming down. And you better get the Banamine out, and you better give them 10 cc's of Banamine right away and call your doctor.
All right. Ginger is watching. I take your advice seriously with my stud Jack. I muzzle him every time I work with him, even though he's never shown aggression. Good decisions there.
Good for you.
Rory says, I had an Appaloosa stallion horse gelded at 14 to 16 years old. Went well, and he was the sweetest boy ever. No complications with after surgery issues at all. Love hearing that. Eric is watching. Eric and Ethel from Nashville, Indiana. Let's see here. Cheryl is watching from North Carolina. We've got our friends watching from Ranch Walla Walla, 42 degrees. Carla is watching from British Columbia. That means we've gone international again. Linda's watching from Portal, Arizona, 55 or so there today. Bill Rose commenting on the pads. He says that's the well-made pads. And right before I'm flying through the rest of these comments, and we'll talk about the pads one more time before we close out shop today. Judy says, my 9-month-old has a Bay 13-2 hand Bay Pasofino mama and a red Roan 14-3 hand Jack. So far, my mule is solid red, and I see no Roan yet. And from her size now, I think she will be 15-2 hand. So there you go. About that breeding there a little bit earlier. I forgot who it was that we were talking to, but there you go. Judy sharing her experience. Mark is watching from Chilhowie, Virginia, 30 degrees, covered in snow. Let's see here. Marcia says, my mule's mama was a 14-hand gray Mustang bred to an average-sized jack, and now he's 16 hands, 1,200-pound bay, and looks like a thoroughbred jumper. Go figure. So there you go, Steve, just what you were saying. Let's see here. John is watching from Utah. Mark from Virginia. I have a few of your pads and have used them for 20-some years, and they have been rode many miles. They are really exceptional pads. If you haven't tried one, you should. Mark, I am taking a screenshot of that, putting it on the website. Let's see here. I'd love to see a video training of teaching to park out. I would too, Kathy. We'll see what we can do, or Twin Mules, we'll see what we can do in the future. Kathy says, in regards to my previous castrating question, mine is a donkey, not a mule. Does that make a difference?
Nope, no difference.
Okay. Super Skeeter says tailing probably never heard of, and maybe subject tailing probably never heard of, and maybe a subject for another episode. What is tailing, Steve?
Tailing. That's when you take and tie a rope around the tail of the animal in the front, and tie it to their halter, and do that to the next animal, next animal.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, we can. Super Skeeter, bring that up. Mark, bring that up another episode. Let's see here. Jim, just tuning in. Good to see you here, Jim. Always good to see you here. Love seeing you in the comments on YouTube as well. Bill says our mule skinner friend Danny Hutto passed away in Cisco, Texas. I'm sorry to hear about your loss, Bill. I don't know if Danny knows the Lord or not, and I don't know the people in your circles whether they know the Lord or not. But I can tell you what Danny would say if he were here is that Jesus is real, and that Jesus makes a difference, and that belief in him is all that we've got. So thank you for sharing, Bill. We'll be praying for you and the people in his circle as well. Steve, tell us one more time what we're looking at here.
Well, these are pads that I've tried to design these pads and try different things. And so this is the end result of pads that I said, okay, this is working the best. We'll start doing them like this. These are triple duty pads, and you all just go on the internet. You can see they're $189 new, and these pads are barely used, you all. Okay, they're just my designer pads, and I'll give them to you for $100. That means you save $89, and then you got $50 in shipping. So you're going to save yourself $80 if you go with this triple pad. And then the other pads, they're just my standard pads. And, they go for somewhere around $165, something like that. Again, if you want these pads, just text me. Any of you text me, and you can have these pads here that you can save yourself $60 on these. And you just text me, and then we'll make arrangements to ship them to you. Like I said, these are pads that I designed and then come up and said, okay, this is what the finished product is going to look like. We start making them all like this. So you all get the very first pads of some of these designer pads that I've made up.
That's awesome. Right. And if y'all decide that you want those inscribed there by Mr. Steve Edwards himself, y'all can ask him, and he will be happy to put his John Hancock there right on the pad. They are one of a kind and special deal as well. So reach out. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us, especially a little bit extra today. We know you could be doing a lot of different things. The fact that you spend a little bit of your time here with us today, we sure do appreciate it. If there's anything that we can do, we want to help you. You can reach out to Steve. You can text him. We've given his number away. You can find it on the website, or you can send a message to support@muleranch.com. So much of what we've talked about today is available for free. You can find it, but if you want any of the products or the videotapes that we've talked about, you can go to muleranch.com. Steve, last words?
Hey, have a great day. We appreciate all y'all watching the videos. We'll see you later.
Sure do. Awesome. God bless everyone. Take care. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.